Excited to have our next speaker here today from a remote professor there. Her name's Dr. Christine Walck. And she's going to do a talk, you can see up there, called Life Without Gravity, How Space Affects the Human Body.
All right, so what happens to our body without gravity? Before I start, does anyone want to give that a try? When you go to space, what happens? What happens?
You float?
You do float. You do float. Yes. What happens?
You can't breathe.
You can't breathe? Well, we have special stuff that allow us, but you are so right. Lots of stuff happens. That's right. Do you know what else might happen to our bodies? In a safe place. Maybe we're inside of a rocket or we're on the ISS.
You lose muscle and bone density?
You do. How about you?
If you have your space helmet on, it gets the gravity off of you because you can't breathe in space.
You can't? That's right. Yeah.
Something to cover our heads so we don't get that kind of air.
Yeah, that's right. But what happens if we put all that safety stuff on and we're totally fine, right? Now we're floating around, we're safe, and we can breathe inside of our suits and we're good. Some of the other things that tend to happen, someone said it earlier, is you have muscle waste, right? So a lot of times we're going to see muscle wasting, we're going to see some bone loss, things like that. And we hear about that, but my question is, why? And really the why comes in because gravity leaves. This chart up here, if you look towards the guy that has all the color, that is where we have gravity. Okay. And when we have gravity and that's present, what it's doing is it's pulling all of our fluids down towards our feet, right? So our heart is actively pumping, trying to go all the way down to my feet and all the way back up. My legs are supporting me. My muscles are here, my lower back, all of these things are keeping me walking. Well, when you take that force away, because gravity is a force, when you take that force away, all of a sudden now the fluid just starts to float. And it starts to float to where it becomes even. That means that your heart now, it doesn't have to work that hard. So now your heart, just like a muscle, if you don't go to the gym and you're not pumping, right, and you're not using it, you're not gonna have that muscle. It's gonna atrophy. Well, your heart does the same thing. It atrophies, okay? So now you have a smaller heart. That's one effect. Another effect is now I'm not having my legs carry me anymore. Now I'm just floating around, right? Now my legs are like, well, if I don't have to hold you up all day, I'm gonna atrophy too. And the same with bones. So a lot of times when we look at like the physiological things, we're looking at our fluid shifts. We are looking at our muscle responses, our bone density, and that cardiovascular response. Another interesting thing that happens when we're up there is with the fluid, if it shifts, we're not really used to it in certain areas, right? So when we look at astronauts, we see their face gets really puffy and their eyes start to come out, and they call those bird eyes. Do you know why they're bird eyes? Why are they bird eyes? Because they're really big. And I know, and all of that pressure starts to come behind your eyes, and you're not really familiar with that. So it starts to build up. What that ends up doing is changes your focal length. So right now, if you have this nice curved eyeball, with the pressure behind it, it's going to start to flatten and it changes that length. So those of you who wear glasses or contacts or are over the age of 3, we kind of all know like our eyes start to change, right? Well, when you go up there, they're really going to change. If you go up there and you already have bad vision, I think it's, don't quote me, I think it's if you're nearsighted, you go up and you come back and you're not anymore, so it's really good. But if you go up kind of healthy, you're gonna come back with probably something that is unwanted, right? Some eyesight damage. We also experience what we call that is higher intraocular pressure behind the eyes. So that's another kind of bad thing that happens when we're in space. So we have, what else do I have on this slide? So we have our eye pressure, our muscle atrophy. I think we have some pictures of that focal length as well. So if we're up there in space and all these bad things happen, what do you think that they do to stop that from happening? We can't bring gravity with us. and I really don't want to come back. So here's another question. What happens if you come back to Earth and your muscles aren't working anymore? Your bones are super brittle, your eyesight is out of whack, and now you want me to land a vehicle. What? I don't think that's very nice. I think you're setting me up for failure. What do you think we should do when we're in space? So maybe we slow down these negative effects. What should we do? What?
Just to move the moon.
Just a what?
The moon.
The mood?
Yeah.
You know, you could dance. Yeah. What else do you think that we could do? Yes. You can exercise in space. That's wonderful. So up here we have 3 machines that you're seeing. Yeah. So we have 3 machines that you're looking at. We are going to have the treadmill. They call that the ARED. The treadmill, when you're running, out of the 3 things we said that goes kind of wrong in space, right? There are bone density, muscle, and cardio. What do you think the treadmill's for? It's actually going to be for bone. Let me see if I have this slide. I'll go back in a second. It's actually going to be for bone density. So in order to increase your bone health, so for those of us who are getting older in age, your doctor's like, go and lift weights and you know, like go make sure you're active. You know, if you fall, you're going to break a bone. Do you ever wonder why your doctor is saying that? Any ideas? If you apply pressure or forces to your bones, then they are going to activate certain particles in those bones, certain cells, okay? And then they make them stronger. So the treadmill, if you look up here, on Earth you're gonna be your black bar. And then as you go down, the colors are different bungee straps, different resistance, okay? So the red one is the highest resistance. And as you can see, if you're running on Earth, your bones feel 2.5 times your body weight, okay? 2.5 times. So I really want to simulate that pressure, those forces that I'm feeling on Earth while I'm in space. So if I'm feeling 2.5 when I go to space, you're going to see the red, it only goes to 2. Well, here's some more bad news. When you put that strap on, you can't run. The astronauts are like, it's too tight. And then they're not even able to do it anyway. So yeah, they were like, on Earth, they're like, yeah, this could be a really good idea, but it didn't end up that way. So they really stay in the green. So if they're in the green, they're really not counteracting it in the most efficient way, okay? So that's one of their machines that they have up there. The next one, they have it kind of looks like a Smith machine almost, but they have like weight, it's for resistance. So the resistance machine, does anyone know what the resistance machine is for? Muscle, very good. Yeah, that's for our muscle. And then the last one is gonna be the bicycle, and that one's gonna be for your cardio. You did great job, young lady. Are you gonna be a future astronaut? Oh, I love it. Okay, so we have those 3 things. Now, but they don't work, right? We're still coming back pretty rough. Did you ever stop to think, well, when I go to space, my body changes pretty quickly, right? Like, so your eye pressure, you notice a difference almost immediately. You're gonna notice, so if you do a handstand, or you ride on a roller coaster, or if you have back problems and you have to go on that little tilt table thing and you go upside down, all your blood rushes to your head, right? Okay, that right away, that feeling that you have, a lot of it is pressure in the back of your eye. So if that happens on Earth, you're gonna have high blood pressure in your eyes behind that almost immediately, and it's not gonna go away, it's gonna continue. Same thing with your muscles within about a month. So if you're, say you're like, oh, I'm gonna get really healthy, and you do really good for like 2 weeks, and then you have like one bad cheat day, and then it all goes away and you're like, but it was one day, right? The same thing in space. Our body is incredible. We adapt so fast, except for when you return to Earth, right? So now it becomes very problematic. And what we're doing right now, come on in, you can come in, it's okay. Yeah, they haven't come in. So it really becomes a problem when you come back on Earth. So I want to talk about, before we talk about maybe some current or alternative methods, does anyone have questions on what they're doing now? Do you have a question or no? No? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, if the things aren't working on space, maybe we can talk about what they are trying to do or how to make things better. There's a few different types of applications. The first one is using dynamics. So I have two of my students up in the front row. Don't get mad at me that I'm pointing you out. Quentin and Trey, they are my researchers, and they have both taken dynamics. So engineering dynamics is what you're kind of seeing on here, just using normal engineering equations. So all of this is they're saying, I know you're shaking your head, it's crazy stuff, right? I promise I make it fun though. They like my class. At least they have to say so. So right now, what they're doing with those machines up in space is they're using two things, the engineering dynamics equations, and then they're also using what's called a strength curve. Does anyone know what a strength curve is? Okay, if I was going to press something off of my chest, or if I was going to take one of my kids and play Superman on the floor, if I hold my child super close to my chest, do you think that that's harder than if I lock my elbows? Super easy out here, right? Same if I'm squatting down to pick up a package, it's going to be super heavy here, and then it's going to kind of get lighter as I stand up, right? That's going to be a strength curve. So your force is going to change within a certain pattern that your joint angles change, okay? So what you're looking at up here is a press that goes out. So the machines, they are built to match your resistance curve. So a lot of times they'll use cams to do that. So if you look at the gym, a bicep curl, if you just take like a jug of milk at home and you start to curl it, if you do it enough times, right, when you start to get tired, you're gonna feel a stick point right about here, okay? And when you get to that stick point, if the machine, the jug of milk's not going to do it, but if you're on a machine, you can have the machine all of a sudden lighten up right there in that range and then become heavy again, lighten up and then become heavy again. So you can continue. Nautilus was the first person in the gym to do that, but now it's very common. They use lots of cams for things. So a lot of your exercise equipment and the equipment on the ISS are going to use things like that. And then to design the machine itself, like I said, they use boring equations. The slide was more towards students. Don't go to sleep on it, I promise. All right, so this one, specifically, these equations, they are going to go with a newly designed machine. And it is, I spent a year in Brazil building it. It is pretty much like a leg press, right? So it's going to match that strength curve. And then it's also going to add negative pressure. Does anyone know what negative pressure is? Negative pressure is basically gravity, okay? So have you guys ever taken mom's vacuum and like put it on your skin and then have it suck up your skin? Yes, yeah, right? So that's what it's gonna do to your whole body. It's just gonna like suck all the fluid back down to your legs. So it started out, I always show my students this, the picture on the side. I should have brought it with me. It is a piece of junk and it sits in my office and it's very heavy, but it shows students like when you go to design something, just quickly go downstairs, like weld it together and see if it works and like it does like your motion path that you want it to. And then the second is going to be my CAD model. So you see that the astronaut or the person is going to be inside. The tube around it is the negative pressure. And then the machine is going to be the resistance and the cardiovascular. Does anyone know why I only care about the lower part? Yeah, so I'm not going to put you in the whole thing, right? I'm only going to put you in half. And the reason I'm going to put you in half is because when you're on Earth, are you walking around on your hands? My 3-year-old does. It's really hard. I don't, right? But most of us, we walk on our feet, right? And that blood is being pulled down towards the feet. So all of the things that happen when we talk about muscle and you talk about bone, it's more towards your L4, your lower back, and down. And then the vacuum itself will pull all of the fluid that you're not familiar with that's behind your eyes and around your heart back down towards your feet. So really you don't need to go around your whole body, just to the L4 and down, okay? So we put that there, and then we had our first prototype on the last photo. So that one machine, what our goal is within, the next rendition of the ISS, with private industry is I don't want to go to space and exercise for 2 hours on 3 different machines, right? Like I want to do fun stuff. So how can we be more efficient and also close that gap? So we have all these negative effects that we experience in microgravity, but how can we close it so it's not so bad? So I don't come home with 40% of my muscle missing or 30% of my bone density, right? So what are things that I can do? This is a step forward, but it's definitely not the best solution. I did this like 8 years ago. So it's definitely like not there anymore, right? There's other ways that we can start doing it. And I think that it lies with ground-based testing. And I see lots of future astronauts in here, and this is where you guys are gonna come in. You guys have to start collecting tons and tons of data, so then we can make our models smart. And then we can start making better equipment, or maybe lower body pressure suction pants.
What's her name?
My name? I'm Chrissy.
Chrissy.
It's nice to meet you, sir. My future astronaut. Okay, so another ways to do this that we can do, we're doing current research right now. These are my 2 students that are running this research. We're really focused on that eye pressure. In space, for some reason, they are seeing that, well, women rock, that's what they're saying, that men and women respond differently with their eyes. For some reason, men are more affected by it. Now, okay, jokes aside, I mean, we all know women rock, but I think it also could be some skewed data because there's not a lot of female astronauts to collect this data. So by doing it here on Earth and getting lots and lots of participants, we can see, is there a trend really that maybe female hormones are protecting, they're lubricating the eye more so they bounce back, like what is going on? Yeah, it's super intriguing. And I believe UCF and Embry-Riddle, I could be speaking on the UCF part, but they are looking into creating a contact that will measure your eye pressure. So when we go to space, we can analyze or compare our ground-based study to what they're finding on the ISS. So right now our students are using a tonneau pen, and does anyone know what a tonneau pen is? Do you know how to measure eye pressure? So this is something to think about. When you go to your eye doctor, do you know when they like put that annoying puff in your eye and you're like, bad word I can't say, right? Okay, instead of that, they have this like pen that measures the amount of pressure per area that you have to push on your eyeball. It sounds super scary. It's not scary. They lived through it. It's totally fine. So you just pop it 3 times and it gives you the reading of the pressure behind your eye. So how much force did it take me to push down to indent it? So right now that's a pen and it's gravity independent. So it's wonderful. They went from that huge machine to this little teeny, it's actually not much bigger than this. So we are making strides. So that's one thing that we're researching. Another thing that we are researching is how do we make our computational models better, because eventually my students want me to stop poking and prying on them, and they would rather me put a simulation together and do funny tests, right? We can't do that yet though, because right now, these models up there, they're called musculoskeletal models. Right now, these models, they are all based off of, I believe, a middle-aged Caucasian male. So it doesn't really benefit us that much when it comes to personalized medicine. And if you are spending or you're sending people up to space, how are you going to counteract that with maybe this young lady up front? Right? She's vastly different. And she's very different from the little boy next to her. And if we're planning on doing space tourism and things like that, we really have to start gathering our database now and improving our models. Okay? Also, the ISS. Does anyone know, and this is a serious question, what is the ISS and why the heck did they build it? It's a very serious, I'm not like, I'm not trying to make fun. Like, do you know what it is? It's what?
Everybody knows.
What is it? That's the name of it. What do you do? What do you do?
People go up there to do different kind of experiments with gravity.
Very good. Okay. And what kinds of research? Why do they go up there? What's the whole point of that?
To see how the research can be done without gravity in different areas, medicine, mechanics, and
But why there? If I could just go to the hospital, why do I have to go here other than it's like freaking incredible? Gravity, okay, but what does that do? This is when my students say, be quiet and answer your own question. It's an accelerated bed test. On Earth, we all lose muscle mass. We all have bone loss. We all can, quite a bit of us will develop glaucoma, which is high pressure behind the eyes. Cardiomyopathy, the heart. All of that stuff happens here. It just happens really, really, really slow. So imagine me poking and prying the same student for 40 years just to get one answer. By the time I get that answer, it's going to be irrelevant. They're probably going to be dead. By going to the ISS, I can collect all of that data within weeks. So we do ISS, we do experiments because it can help us here on Earth, okay? It can help us understand things and fight diseases and prevent things from happening and get current countermeasures at a faster rate so our little ones don't have to experience what we're experiencing. It can come up with solutions. Before I move on to other things that I do in my lab, I want to talk more about just what we do without gravity. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know how we are on time, but yes.
I forgot.
It's okay. You can ask later. It happens to me all the time. Does anyone else have any questions about what happens to our bodies when we go in space? What is it, sweet girl?
If your space helmet like falls out,
Don't make me answer that. What happens if your space helmet comes off? Don't let it come off.
expand, like then it explodes.
Okay, Mama. I don't know what she's watching, but let's pull that back, okay? And sweet girl, don't take your helmet off, okay? All right, while you guys think of more questions about space, why don't we talk a little bit about what goes on at Embry-Riddle's Biomechanical Aerospace Laboratory. It was biomechanical analysis, but now we're doing tons and tons of space research. So we have now rebranded and it's now Aerospace Laboratory. So in this, that's an interesting clip of YouTube for a hip dysplasia. Can you push the play button? I mean, I'm glad it's that and not something else though. Right? That would have been terrible. Okay, so yeah, you can play it, please. Thank you. So what we do here is some motion capture, and all of the things that you're seeing up here is definitely beneficial for that personalized medicine in space. So if everyone's kind of looking at the video now, so we can talk about that. That's hip dysplasia for babies. When we advance our models, I said that it was a middle-aged Caucasian male for our musculoskeletal models. Okay, well, little teeny babies with hip dysplasia or with other kinds of diseases, they don't have bones that are like ours. They're not hard, they're very soft, and they change from week to week. We don't have a model currently that we can test that represents them well. So that video is us collecting data on a child, getting used to the ranges of motions, its force output and things like that. And that is later going to help us. We are creating it's like a hip brace that allows the baby to heal at a faster rate than the harder cases that they have. It's also much less invasive than putting a baby in an X-ray. Has anyone ever, I hope no one has, but has anyone ever had to do like an X-ray and an MRI on a little teeny baby? You have to did you put them in the tube? You have to hang them in a tube and then like just hang them there. It's horrifying. So let's not do that. Let's come up with something else. So we're trying to come up with ways to advance those models. So a lot of that stuff doesn't have to happen anymore. Another thing that we do is sports biomechanics. Here's a golfer down here. A student was interested in the L4, L5. But we do lots of different studies on sports and different techniques and how we can advance them. A few of my students have actually gone off to work with, like, I don't know anything about sports, so please don't ask me, but they're in Tampa with a baseball team. And they're working on there. We also do, at the very top, is a project that's been going on for a few years. It's assistive devices. Is anyone familiar with Oceans of Hope? The Oceans of Hope Foundation, they're a local foundation, and they work with people who are paralyzed, stroke victims, car crashes, spinal cord injuries, veterans, the whole nine. When you are injured and you are isolated, how do you feel? This is actually very closely related to astronauts. When you go to the ISS, you have to do lots and lots of team building before you go anywhere with your group. You also have to be paired with the correct group. They are not going to, just because I passed and you passed, we might have very different personalities, and they're going to say, you can go on the next ride. You're going to hate her within 10 minutes, and you'll probably kill her. So, they put us on different ones. They do lots of different personality tests, right? I was an analog astronaut. I'm about to do another round. We're going to do underwater this time for 2 weeks. I spent 2 weeks out in the Mojave Desert. Does anyone know what analog astronaut is? What? Analog? Oh. It's like pretending, right? So like you pretend. I went camping and I put like a suit on and I put my phone down and we pretended we were on the ISS and we collected a lot of data. And a lot of data that the researchers were interested in was, how does our psychological behavior affect our bodies? And the first day we were all super excited. Second day, we're still okay. Third day, oh man, people were mean. They were nasty. They started changing colors in their skin. You could see things were changing. By the second week, we had 2 people drop out. It was very interesting seeing kind of what different environments do to you. So I'm very excited about the underwater one. We'll see how many people make it through that. I don't know, we'll see. But anyhow, being in different environments, it's very emotional. And if you have someone with a disability, say especially you weren't born with it, and then all of a sudden your freedom is taken away from you, suicide rates are astronomical. Also, the amount of money that people with disabilities have to pay is, I think, 14 or 15% higher than the average person. So all of those things are extremely difficult. Can you hear me? Are extremely difficult. So the thing that we're doing up there in the corner, it's an assistive device for that company. They came to us and they said, we're doing this kayaking event, but spinal cord injury, you can't move your arms, or a stroke victim, you can only move one. So what do? Out on the market, there was only, it's called an angle oar, and it just is like a teeter-totter. I don't know when the last time you kayaked, but did you do this? I didn't. I did more of this, right? Yeah. So we use the same equations that I showed before. We use the same methodology that I showed before of your space exercise machine to create a device that mimicked a forward stroke for these individuals. And then we go out and we test and we give it to them. So instead of them having to have someone behind them paddle for them, they have their freedom back and they can also, participate in those. The reason that I'm kind of going into this, you're like, I thought this was about space. Everything you do, especially like in engineering, it's all the same math. It's all the same methodology, and you can create different things, right? So your output might be different, and your input might be different, but all the stuff in between is very much the same. So by learning assistive devices on Earth, we could also use assistive devices that technology when we go to space. We also have robots. So that was for an autistic child. Those are things that we're also going to be putting out on space. We're doing some trials with just how do you communicate on the ISS or on a rocket or anything like that. So those are some of the things that we are doing in my lab. And then I thought that's it that I had. Any questions on what it's like to be in space and how our body adapts? Yes.
How long will somebody have to be in space for their height?
Their height change. So your height change is going to be due to the bone density. So your bone density is going to decrease, and that can happen between 1 month. 1 to 3% of your bone mass will go. So the two twins, the one twin that went up, that he came back, he now wears glasses and he's shorter and he's a little bit bigger in the face than his twin now. He looks like a little bird. Yeah, but within 1 month, your muscles will start to waste within 2 weeks. Yeah, good question. Any other? Yes.
The two people that were supposed to go up for a couple of weeks and then they had to stay for a while.
Yes.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
They started doing research on it yet this year.
I don't believe so, but I would be very interested because of the food sources and how much they had available and the nutritions that they got or didn't get, the rations that they had to do through people. That's two people that had to survive off of a 2,000 calorie diet with everyone else. So it would be very interesting to see that. NASA is wonderful. But also they're a government company, and when people sign up to go, NDAs and privacy and HIPAA and all that stuff is pretty strict, which is another reason I am pushing so hard for ground-based research so we can have a library right now to get information on an astronaut. You can get it. It took me 1.5 years to get in front of an IRB to propose the data that I wanted, and I could only get half the data that I wanted. So it does slow things down, which is a benefit to getting private industry involved. I think it'll go a little faster, but to see research on them, if NASA themselves do it, then we'll hear about it. But I haven't heard of a call out. I have some colleagues over here that are also very heavily involved. Has anyone heard a call out of research? I don't think so, yeah. So not to my knowledge, no. Yeah. Yes?
Do you change your nutritional balance when you're up there?
Do you change what?
Change your nutrition?
So they have you all set prior to you going. They're going to read your measurements, so your body weight, your muscle density, things like that. And they're going to say, okay, this is the nutritions you need. These are the macros you need. So this is how many grams of protein, fat, and carbs and everything. But then they have to say, okay, they have to make sure you're fit enough to go, and that they can supply the amount that you can go up with. So they have all of that tracked in the payload prior. That's part of their training. They train years prior to going up, and all of that is calculated with their nutritionist.
It's not like a hamburger.
No, I wish, but no, it's not happening. No. Mm-mm. And their ice cream is disgusting, by the way. If you're ever asked to try it, just say no thank you and walk away. It's not worth the calories. Just say no thank you. Oh, you can have mine. Oh, I was like, where's the sugar? What is this? Oh, no, no thank you. Any other questions?
Any question real quick?
No, you go ahead.
So obviously we're looking into the future and trying to figure out if we can go to Mars, and so there's a lot of work towards that. And I know we can kind of get over some of the engineering side of things and actually getting there, but do you think we are ready yet to have that kind of long duration mission for the body to go to a place like Mars?
No, and you hear laughter right now because my colleague, Elon Musk, I actually adore him. We don't need to get into a conversation about it, but I think he is wonderful. And he has got us much further. But when you look at his track record, he's very much focused on the vehicle aspect, right? You haven't seen him talk much about the human aspect. Lately, I've been hearing some talks on it, but I'm really happy if a rocket could go, but if there's no one in the rocket, then we have problems. And if the people in the rocket go, then we need to make sure they're okay. So we can think about it of one of two ways. The first, if you come back, then it's a problem. But the second question is, if you go to Mars, are you going to come back? Or are you going to stay? And then if you stay, if your body adapts, is it a bad thing? Because when we're on the ISS and we adapt and we look funny, right? We look like birds and we have skinny little legs and big heads and, we look funny, but we're adapting. That's what our body needs. We don't even notice anything wrong with our eyes. You're not going to see them say, I need a pair of glasses. You don't notice anything that's wrong until you come back. So say we go to Mars and we start to adapt. Okay, we look funny, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. The things that let me say, it's not going to be a problem for the things we talked about today. The things that will be a problem is going to be radiation, and meteor showers and stuff, things that along those lines that could probably kill you. And then reproduction. We are doing studies on reproduction and seeing how that goes. I'm not going to get into it too much because of the little ears, but that's a big concern, right? Like, if we go to Mars, are we going to be able to continue to fill Mars, right? So that is a problem, and then the radiation. But the body, I think my question would be more, how are we going to adapt? And the way we adapt, would that sustain us? Or are we going to hit a plateau? What does that plateau look like? So I do think before we send anyone, we do need to put thought into it. We do need to put in new machines. We need to think about negative pressure as a solution. We need to think about electro, for my older parts here. Do you remember back in the day where you put that machine on your belly and it did the muscles for you so you didn't have to go to the gym? Yes, that thing. So, you could add those to clothing, to activate muscles. You could do a few things like that. So we're working on a project now that integrates things into your clothes. So if you wear compression, right, that would help blood flow. If you wear the electric simulations, you can have them start to basically tens, when you go to therapy, and it will do it for you. You can put those in your pants. There are things that we can do, but it needs to be done. I know that we're applying for a couple of grants to try to help us get there. But yeah, it's something that we need to think about. That's a good question.
How long will it take?
How long will it take to develop it? Oh, I think that's a one-way mission. But if it is both ways, isn't it, how many years? 3 for there and back? 3. I was going to go with more 4, but 3. Okay. Yeah, no. My husband told me no. Yes?
say you get back to 100% after being in the space for?
It's different for everyone. So I know, which is such a bogus cop-out answer. When you get hurt though, when you go to therapy and someone is way better at it and then someone's not, it really depends on the condition you go up, which is why in the past, and another reason why it's so scary right now, in the past, NASA's had strict guidelines of who could go up and who can't go up. Also, I applied for the astronaut program, and at the time I applied, they said, you're too young because of children. We don't know if you can have kids. So they actually favored older women and older men because they knew, okay, you have the ability to say, okay, I can say I don't want to have a child or whatever that may be, right? So then they were very strict, and we could see them bounce back pretty quickly. And then they started doing longer missions, and you can still see today the two twins that went up. The brother still looks different. He hasn't gone back 100%, and they were identical twins. So I don't think it's more of when you get back. I don't think you'll be maximum. You won't be the same exactly, but I think you can optimize different parameters to make sure that you're not. You don't have broken bones when you fall, but you'll probably always have to wear glasses, but you won't have glaucoma. So that's good, right? So again, our bodies are incredible. We can adapt to so much, but coming back, it's actually a little bit, I don't want to say harsh because everyone's like, but space is the harshest, right? Okay, it is, but not when it comes to your muscles. You don't have to do any work. You just float, right? So in different aspects, it's harder to come back than it is to go. So way back when we were thinking about going to the moon and now Mars, everyone says, oh, what are the countermeasures we need to get there? No one asked the question of what do you need the countermeasures to come back with? So now we're prepared for radiation. We're prepared for CO2 exposure. We're prepared for all these things, but we're not so prepared when we come back. So now the questions are starting to shift, and it's becoming more important because of the, like normal people going up with the tourism, right? So if I'm like, hey, I'm going to go up here for a week and I'm going to come back, I better be able to go to work in a week, and do my job. So the questions are there, and I think the need is becoming greater, that grants will start being put out and researchers will be able to start looking into that time frame. Such a bogus answer, sorry.
All right. I think we have to end there.
Oh.
Applause for Dr. Walck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.